All right, we are live.
All right. We've got our March 25th, 2026 CPRC Executive Committee meeting, calling it to order. Of course, this is a virtual meeting. We will need to make sure that we are doing any vote by a roll call, and when speaking, everybody does need to identify themselves by town and name to make sure we comply with virtual meeting laws. With that being said, we'll get a roll call, see who we've got in the room today.
All right, I'm just checking. I don't think we have any new folks. You guys know the drill.
Cool, cool.
All right. Anger.
Chevelle Harmon, Town of Anger.
Chatham County. City of Durham. Durham County. Hillsborough. Holly Springs. Johnston County. Lee County.
Lee County, Kirk Smith.
Moore County.
Rick Hutchinson, Moore County.
You're Whispering Pines, so unfortunately you're the last one on the list, but I'll get you.
Shucks.
Maybe next time I'll go up. Orange County.
Jean Hamilton, Orange County.
Pittsburgh. Sanford.
Rebecca Salmon, City of Sanford, present.
Selma.
Byron McAllister, Town of Selma, present.
Wake County.
Susan Evans, Wake County, present. Happy to not be last for a change.
And Whispering Pines.
Rick Hutchinson is present.
All right, we have quorum.
All right, we've got a quorum, and with that, we'll talk a little bit about getting to know CPRC. So today's tidbit of information, the Triangle Development Awards Program, which was established in 1983, which is I guess about a year after I was born, by the Triangle J Council of Governments to encourage quality development in the then 6-county Region J area. The awards program lasted for about 10 years, and the emphasis of the awards was on projects that bring together innovative ideas in planning, financing, architecture, and landscape architecture. Examples of award winners include Shepherd's Vineyard in Apex, Moores Square Station in Raleigh, the BASF Agricultural Research Center in RTP, Kiwanis Family Park in Sanford, Park 40 Plaza in Durham, and near and dear to my own heart, the Selma Equipment Repair Shop here in Selma, North Carolina. With that, we have an agenda in front of us to take a peek at and a little bit of business to handle this evening. Is there anyone who would like to make any changes to the agenda? If so, please speak up now. Hearing and seeing nothing, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda as presented. And that's going to bring us into the draft Central Pines 2026 through 2029 strategic plan. Lee and team, you ready to take that away?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're ready.
Cool, cool.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. Also wanted to welcome Delegate Hutchinson. I think this might be his first executive committee meeting. I don't know if he was present last month when I was not able to be here. So thank you, sir, for representing the counties in Moore County. And I also want to thank Jenny for stepping in for me last month. I'm dealing with some parental care issues, and so appreciate my staff always stepping up and doing a great job. So with that, we're really excited to be presenting to you today our draft strategic plan. This includes the strategic focus areas as well as the goals for the plan that will help guide the organization over the next 3 years. Just for a little bit of background, there's been a lot of input up to this point. I've been really proud that despite all of the work that our staff has to do. We've been actually also managing this process in-house, developing this plan, and I appreciate leadership team and our staff members taking the time to do this important work. The executive committee has also been involved. We had a really good retreat a few months ago where you all gave input on the mission and the vision, the focus areas, and generally our operational sort of service areas. And what we hope today is that you'll see all of that input coalescing into a document that I think can very strongly guide our organization over the next 3 years. Something else that I hope you'll be seeing as we continue to move forward with this plan is a tighter integration of the plan to the budget and actually mapping how this plan will be carried out by our staff. We're working on some ways to present that to you that hopefully will help tell that story. Finally, before I dive into the specifics, this is only really the second iteration of a strategic plan for our organization. Our first strategic plan was developed a couple of years ago, and we really entered that plan really with open eyes that this was going to be an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to realize that, you know, we were going to make some mistakes and not characterize things or put things in the right bucket, and that a plan lives. You know, you're going to learn from that, you're going to improve, you're going to then redo another plan. And so I hope you'll see some significant changes that reflect what we've learned from the first plan. So what I plan to do is we're going to present the mission and the vision, which the executive committee has already signed off on, but then we will go into each strategic focus area and show the goals for that focus area. And really what we're looking for from the executive committee, we want to make sure that these goals reflect your wishes for the direction of the organization. Are we missing something that we need to be focusing on? Are we going in the wrong direction on a goal? There's a lot of people on here and we don't have a ton of time. So I'd ask, and of course you can change anything that you want, but my request is this is really a recommended plan to the executive committee. And if there's some wordsmithing, you know, let's try to keep that to a minimum if possible and really focus on, you know, have we missed something big? And then we can always go back and finesse. We will then be bringing this back to the full board in April for a review and hopefully a final blessing. So with that, I'll dive in, and of course I'll pause at each slide to see if there's any questions. So if we can go to the first slide, which is our mission and vision. There are no changes to the mission and vision from 2 years ago when these were changed significantly. We did not have a vision statement 2 years ago, so that was new for the organization. The mission statement was changed dramatically, and really this undergirds the entire plan. So if we'll go to strategic focus 1. So what I want to say about this is in our last strategic plan, our focus areas were things like community and economic development, housing, transportation. Although I think we got the areas right, we actually, despite us saying that we want to make sure that we don't silo ourselves, that all of these issues are interconnected, the way we structured our own strategic plan actually siloed these regional issues into separate focus areas. And so what we're proposing to you this evening are focus areas that are broader and that really thoughtfully try to integrate service areas that make sense. And we're not going to get this perfect, I think, ever. I think you could make an argument that you could probably shift 1 or 2 of these into another one. But as we do our work, this is where we see the best alignment under a focus area, where we can develop goals to actually develop metrics to show progress. So our focus area 1 is about thriving people and communities. It's about supporting the well-being, health, and quality of life of residents across our region through direct assistance, age-friendly communities, community outreach, and service coordination. So this will include our Area Agency on Aging and other human service activities. I want to emphasize something we heard loud and clear from the executive committee retreat, is that you all believe and expect us to be thinking about regional solutions, innovation, thought leadership, and an emphasis on our data and our data center. So you're going to see a lot of references to that in our goals. So the goals for this are to serve as a regional innovation hub for advancing effective person-centered human services, and then to leverage our data center to utilize human services data to support proactive planning, service alignment, and effective investment decisions. The final thing I'll say about this one, and I won't repeat this for every slide, you're not seeing the strategies yet. So the strategies are those tactical things that we're going to be doing to advance goals. Our staff are beginning to work on those strategies, but we wanted to solidify goals before we sort of put the finishing touches on the strategies. So these purposefully aren't as tactical as what you'll see in the strategy, okay? So I'm going to stop there, Mr. Chair, and see if anybody has any comments or thoughts on this focus area for the goals.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody, let's jump in, have some conversation about what we see. Well, I'll start. Certainly looks like paying attention to the conversations we had at our first session, or our previous executive board session related to this. I'd say you nailed it at a glance. Simple goals, effective goals that definitely encourage us to not reinvent the wheel, but then string together all the pieces that we already know exist in the region to work particularly on human services. So I think this is great.
Okay. I'll go on to focus area 2. We can always come back if we need to. So focus area 2 is about being connected, our connected places as a region. This is about creating accessible, well-planned, and linked communities through coordinated land use, transportation networks, housing opportunities, regional water sewer opportunities, and regional planning. So our service areas there would include our land use work, our transportation work, our housing work, and then our work on water and sewer infrastructure. And so, again, our goals are to develop a coordinated regional long-range plan, improve regional coordination on transportation issues, and leverage our technical expertise to add value and consistency to the region, lead regional coordination to increase and preserve a housing supply that strategically aligns with community well-being, transportation networks, jobs, and infrastructure capacity, and to facilitate land use and infrastructure planning. So, Mr. Chair, that's our focus area 2, connected places.
It actually looks really good to me. I was a little concerned that particularly this focus area would be too broad, but seeing how it's laid out and the goals here, it seems very doable from a very high level view of our entire region. I like it a lot.
I'm gonna jump in and say I agree. I think that, we talked about earlier iterations of the strategic plan. The way this, I think it's very clear that we're not specifying exactly what our role will be in all these issues, but that we're going to use our expertise. We're going to use our connectivity, to help us out. Thank you.
All right, we're good to go.
Okay, yeah, we'll move on to focus area 3. So focus area 3 is about our prosperous and sustainable region. So this is about economic and environmental resilience through strategic asset building, resource protection, and community resilience initiatives. So this would be our community development, environmental protection, and emergency management. We listened to the executive committee. We did have public safety on here and have dropped that to only focus on emergency management, where we think there are some really interesting opportunities and resilience. So this would be things like strengthening regional resiliency and coordination on natural and human caused occurrences, regional coordination and thought leadership around water utility and watershed planning and interconnection, and supporting an increase in local and regional investment and capacity to expand assets that advance community development and economic opportunity.
Again, the dropping of the public safety piece was, I think, certainly a big ask from the executive committee previously, and to pare this down to something that seemed more manageable for our organization. Again, I think you've hit it on the head, and particularly showing where it's different from strategic focus area 2, and the difference between the prosperous and sustainable region is related to more of the infrastructure focused conversation. So this is, you guys are really knocking it out of the park as far as I can see. What else we got?
Well, I just weigh it again. I think it's great here. I'm very excited about the focus, regional plans with disaster situations, because that's something that we could all benefit from. And for your awareness, Lee, a couple of years ago, the North Association of County Commissioners, every county prepared was the focus. Our chair a couple of years ago, the County Commissioners Association has been, doing some seminars and things. I have a lot of counties doing things that would help them be prepared. So you may want to lean into some of those that are out there. But the point being, we know that this is the world that we live in now, where there are going to be sudden, situations that we have to learn collectively. And we can't, we're seeing that we can find the government to come to our rescues, and we all need to work together to deal with these things when they happen. So I look forward to seeing how we build that out and we landed in all this.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's Rick Hutchinson. With the emergency management, you really are still touching on public safety, although not having to get granular, because that's really municipality to municipality how they deal with that. But the regional approach towards emergency management is essential, especially with a lot of the stuff that we deal with in this area. So it looks good.
Yeah, and for Delegate Hutchinson's benefit, and because I know his background as used to be in the fire service, I think the executive committee, they specifically, there are some COGs that like convene police, convene fire, convene EMS, and do some of that type of work, and where the executive committee really thought we could lean in is that emergency management, more region-wide planning, hazard mitigation planning, thinking about some of the work the state's doing on flooding and plugging into that and really bringing communities together on that planning. And then also when we have an event, helping to provide that capacity on paperwork and things that, you know, just overwhelm local governments when they're having to deal with FEMA and things like that. So those are the things that we think we see real opportunity in, among some others. But thank you for that. Okay, let's go to 4. Thank you. So 4 is about regional excellence and innovation. This is serving as the premier convener and catalyst for local government members through technical assistance and expertise, collaboration, innovative solutions, and efficient shared services. You know, we really want to lean into the fact that, you know, we are the regional council, the only general purpose regional organization where all 50, hopefully soon 51 local governments are members across this entire Triangle region. And so this is where our technical assistance, member support, innovation, collaboration, shared services, regional policy, and regional data center will live. I know this sounds like a lot, but we are sort of doing most of this already. The specific, very purposeful change. The regional data center for decades has lived under our transportation area. The reason for that is because of our significant support for the MPOs around data and the development of the long-range transportation plan. Most of the data centers work has been focused on that transportation side. And you will see with the budget recommendation coming next month, we are going to be moving that under member services and trying to fully staff it with a staff member to begin looking more organizationally around data issues. So it's a really substantive, purposeful shift to be more inclusive of all of our focus areas. So that is one of the most major shifts that we're making in response to the elected officials' desire that we really dig in on this regional data piece. So I wanted to point that out. So goals under 4 include establishing Central Pines as the region's leading trusted resource on issues that most impact local goals, policies, and services, delivering consistent member-centered experience that strengthens capacity and collaboration, and advanced collaboration among public institutions, community-based partners, and government agencies to improve effectiveness, efficiency, and reduce duplication.
I think this is a great tie together of the first 3 strategic focus areas. You know, these first 3 areas are the specific things that we want to accomplish related to infrastructure, related to actual services in communities. And then how is our council going to manage that? How are we going to do that? This, I think, is tied up very nicely with focus area number 4. So I appreciate that this is kind of progressing through the conversation of how we make this happen for the Central Pines Regional Council. All right, everybody good? Let's roll.
All right, the final goal is our 5th goal, and that's our organizational. That's it is internal, but it's also not, right? We've got to be solid and high performing if we're going to do, you know, good work for the region. So organizational excellence, make sure that we're being effective. We have financial stewardship, compliance, and organizational capacity to deliver on that mission through strong administrative functions and strategic internal investments. This is our administration and non-departmental efforts. So goals under that are upholding exceptional financial stewardship through transparent financial management, strong compliance practices, and proactive risk management that reinforce member trust and position CPRC as a dependable regional partner. Second would be strengthen organizational capacity to provide proactive, member-centered, cross-functional technical expertise. And then third is elevate operational excellence and accountability.
Again, for me, a nice flow down the strategic focus area chart to, again, how are you going to accomplish all of this from the external conversation all the way into the internal conversation. I do think this is incredibly well put together. So thank you very much. Anybody have any other thoughts on what we've got presented related to our Central Pines strategic plan draft? Hey, sounds like everybody likes it.
I think there was a comment.
Oh.
Somebody was about to speak.
This is Kathleen. I was just going to echo Byron. This is really well done. I am excited to see the co-location of the disciplines and the utilization of the data center more explicitly across the organization and more visibly. So thank you and well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amen. Fantastic.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, if there's not any objection, we don't necessarily need a vote. If the executive committee is agreeable, we will take this and start plugging in our strategies and have a full plan to present at the April board meeting for the board's comment and consideration.
Okay. Well, let me ask plainly, does anybody object to proceeding to have this ready for our April conversation with the full board? Okay. Not hearing anything there. I think we're good to go, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the executive committee. Again, the amount of work that our staffs put into this document, I just really appreciate. And I mean, it was just 3 hours, but the direction the committee gave a few months ago was so great and really helped us really refine and focus in on what we needed to do. So thank you.
Do we have a couple of questions from Ms. Caballero?
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Javier Caballero. I'm newly appointed, but was on the COG many years ago as the alternate. Good to be with y'all. I just was curious. I thought everything was great that was presented. Is there an idea or a hope that this would be like put on a dashboard of sorts where folks can, where it's monitored and tracked as we implement?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. We actually have one of the things that we learned from the last time is we did not have a good tracking tool. So now we have ClearPoint to actually help track the strategic plan. We will be developing metrics once all of this is done. And with our new website design, yes, we want to have a dashboard that will track these metrics and these goals. We also will plan on regular updates to the executive committee as we begin moving through the plan over the next 3 years.
Thank you. And then I do wonder if there's a way, you know, the Western Triangle TPO is also in the middle of this, and we have talked about our member jurisdictions maybe somehow connecting it back to their websites. So
yes.
if folks, that's up to everyone in their own, within their own jurisdictions, but I wonder if that can also be a conversation that folks are open to having, to, again, that connectivity back as members. So when our residents are on our websites, they have that thing right back to Central Pines. They don't have to go to a separate website. There's a button that links them.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. And you know, we could house that in our data center so that, and we've actually thought about how to drill down on some of these things to show a regional view, but there are also some opportunities where we think we could drill down and show impact in individual jurisdictions as well. So yes, as we develop that data center, I think there are lots of opportunities to map back to our organization's websites.
Thank you. Those were all my questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And with Ms. Caballero's question, let's make it a point at our next full board meeting to spark the conversation about what type of portal, what type of information, what type of link our communities might like that they could put on their homepages, their town websites, city websites, and really get some information on what they think that their citizens would like to see most readily accessible as far as Central Pines Regional Council information is concerned. That's cool.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure to do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Do we have any other questions, any other thoughts related to the Central Pines strategic plan draft? All right, hearing none, that will bring us down to our business item of approval of a foreign trade zone chair and vice chair. And I believe do we have Mr. Thomas McAllister to take us away on that one?
We do indeed.
Hey. After you, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Thomas McAllister. I am the Foreign Trade Zone Administrator with Central Pines Regional Council. Go to the next slide. So Foreign Trade Zone 93, just to give everyone an overview, I know there are a few new board members here today, or newer board members who might not know about Foreign Trade Zone 93. Central Pines Regional Council received the grant of authority for Foreign Trade Zone 93 back in 1983. Sometimes we also call Foreign Trade Zone 93 the Research Triangle Area Foreign Trade Zone. And this foreign trade zone covers a 15-county area. So that includes all 7 of Central Pine Regional Council's counties, as well as 8 additional counties in the Central North Carolina region. Currently inside of FTZ 93, we have 13 active operators and 19 active sites across the region. Next slide, please. So just to give everyone a little bit of a breakdown of what exactly a foreign trade zone is, for those who may not be aware, a foreign trade zone is an economic tool that companies use to expedite and encourage international trade in their business models. And that, of course, thus increases international trade throughout the entire region. It also increases job competitiveness and helps companies to add and retain jobs and optimizes companies' supply chain and logistics. Some of the ways that it does that, some of the ways that businesses use the foreign trade zone to as an economic tool is by reducing duties, eliminating duties, and also deferring duties. They can also do all of those things with tariffs as well, since the foreign trade zone is considered outside of U.S. customs territory. At the end of the day, this does allow companies to decrease cost of goods through, optimizing their supply chains and increasing competitiveness. It allows companies to, at the end of the day, reduce prices for consumers. It's also encouraging companies to remain in the domestic market instead of sending jobs to foreign countries because of those incentives that we mentioned earlier. And thus, by encouraging domestic business, it's also increasing jobs in our region. Next slide. So FTZ 93 is overseen by the Rates, Tariffs, and Legal Review Board. That is a board under Central Pines Regional Council, and the CPRC Executive Committee granted that board the authority to make decisions on behalf of the Executive Council regarding all matters related to the foreign trade zone. So the proposal from that board after our last meeting was to make Mayor Solomon, our chair, and Jerry Brutus with Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, the vice chair. So that is the proposal from the Rates, Tariffs, and Legal Review Board tonight.
All right. Thank you for that information, Mr. McAllister. Wonderful last name, by the way, just the same. With
Thank
that,
you.
yes, sir. With that, do we have any objection to placing this item on consent with the vote being to make Rebecca Salmon, Mayor of Sanford, chair for the FTZ Foreign Trade Zone, and then Jerry Brutus pose vice chair, make her the vice chair for the Foreign Trade Zone.
Mr. Chair, Kirk Smith, Lee County.
Yes, sir.
I would be remiss in not recommending Mayor Salmon, so I will recommend Mayor Salmon as well as Jerry Barotis.
Very cool. Very cool. And if we have no objection to that, with that recommendation, we can place that item on consent and we will vote those positions in as part of the consent agenda. Any objections? Thank you for the recommendation, Mr. Smith. No objections, so we will bring us down to the consent agenda. And on that consent agenda, we've got draft minutes from February 25, 2026. We've got the CPRC budget amendment number 5. We've got the Triangle West TPO budget amendment. And we've got approval of that FTZ number 93 chair and vice chair that we just discussed. So with that, we will need a roll call vote to approve the consent agenda. And I believe Ms. Beth Seidel will take that away for us.
Yes, we just need a motion and a second.
Do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Yeah.
Second.
Second.
So was that Susan Evans?
Yes.
Okay. Dennis Caballero.
All right. So we do have a motion and a second, and I guess we'll need the roll call vote now.
All righty. Let's see here. Anger,
Town of Anger, Chevelle Harmon, I approve.
Chatham County, City of Durham,
Javier Caballero, aye.
Durham County, Hillsborough,
Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, I.
Holly Springs, Johnston County,
Johnston County, Butch Lauder, aye.
Lee County,
Lee County, Kirk Smith, affirmative.
Moore County, Orange County,
Gene Hamilton, Orange County, I.
Pittsburgh, Sanford,
Rebecca Salmon, City of Sanford, I.
Selma,
Byron McAllister, Town of Selma, aye.
Wake County,
Susan Evans, Polk County, aye.
and Whispering Pines.
Rick Hutchinson, Village of Whispering Pines, aye.
All right, everything is approved.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And that brings us into around the region. Of course, with all the talk of tax reform in the state legislature and in the state of North Carolina, I'm interested to hear if any of our communities have gotten any significant feedback about current tax rates, current tax bills. I know that we have gotten significant feedback with our recent reevaluation in Johnston County, but I'm interested to hear how other towns and counties are, or what other towns and counties are hearing from their constituents. So if anybody'd like to take it away.
This is Kathleen Ferguson within Hillsborough, and certainly it's assuming I understand your question accurately in terms of feedback from residents on the valuation. We have been excoriated. I would think that's not an overstatement. We have seen and justifiably so, where properties, literally same floor plan, same building periods. And actually, where the updated house is valued less than the unupdated house. The only difference being the owners of people of color versus a corporate entity. Guess who pays the higher tax bill? And then just the general real concerns of property taxes and incomes and versus our communities, municipal needs to keep operating and providing the services that the residents expect. And real concerns for the loophole with the affordable housing looming and what the legislature may do in terms of caps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, down here in Whispering Pines, nothing significant. There's been, some griping about, the amount of tax, but also some that say, we can pay more for what we're getting. So it's, kind of a push. It's just kind of interesting, path that state legislature is, considering, which, if they want to go for broke on it, I will more than happy to let them deal with replacement of one of our large dams here in the village. They can take on those headaches. I don't mind that. But yeah, really nothing big either way.
Yeah, this is Gene Hamilton, Orange County. So I will echo Kathleen Ferguson's view that our residents have been extremely upset with the revaluation and the amount of property taxes they're paying. We as a county are aware of those issues and how different properties have been assessed. So we established a tax assessment work group that's been working for a few months to understand how we can approve our tax assessment. We are going to hire a consultant to also look at that issue and bring us feedback of how we can make sure that our processes are fair and transparent. Our tax administrator has retired as of April 1st. So we have going to hire an acting tax assessor and tax collector. And we are going to use a recruiting firm to find our permanent tax assessor and tax collector, who would be our tax administrator. So we have taken the concerns of the community extremely seriously and are working really hard to make sure the tax assessment part is fair. And probably, I think I saw quickly in the chat that we may decide to do assessments more often if that helps. But I think there are some other issues that have been revealed that will be fixed. And finally, I think I just got an email the other day from a resident who upset with property taxes and who suggested that we increase the sales tax. So we're hearing a lot. Yes, so I'm open to hear if anyone else has heard that, to increase sales tax and decrease the property tax.
Unfortunately, we don't even get the valuable information like increased sales tax. It's just decrease the property taxes. And we've actually had to have very intentional conversations about how inflation not only affects your wallet at home, but it also affects the wallet of the municipality as well, and your taxes at the same time. So if it costs more to repair your car at the shop down the street, it also costs us more to repair our fleets, fix roads, maintain infrastructure. And that conversation has been really missed up until recently, and now we're being very intentional about it.
I'm curious if there's a way, there's other states that have capped. I think California's the big one that I think of. The dirty secret is that Texas doesn't tax your income, but they have some of the highest property tax rates in the country. If there's a way for Central Pines to help us do some analysis on like, what has it actually done to housing in a way? Like I've heard that one of the reasons that California's housing crisis is so bad is that because they essentially capped what people's value was over time, only when the house sells does that new owner get stuck with that increased tax value. So it's subsidized long term, which is good in some ways, but not to the level that it's been subsidized. And so I always tell folks cautionary tale, which is, California's land use rules, if not monitored carefully in our states, southern states that are growing quickly, we're going to be the next California as far as housing costs goes if we don't build enough, if we don't add enough supply. I know that is an unpopular opinion and neighbors don't like to hear it, but supply is one important, and I'll say one, not the only tool to dealing with affordability. So would love to see if, since all of us are in this space together, we're all going to get affected. And I saw in the chat the whole point around Medicaid and SNAP and what's that's going to do to our counties, right? The burden is going to get pushed down to counties, and then they're going to limit the amount of money that can get collected at that level potentially. So just a thought, if there's a way for some analysis to be done across the country that could help us. For those of us that we're fortunate in Durham that we have a lobbyist, we have both a state and federal formal lobbying firms. And then those of us who are, I don't participate in the league, but I'm sure it's going to come up there quite a bit so that we could have some real good information about what it's done to municipalities and counties across the country.
Sure, we'd be, excuse me, we'd be more than happy to do some research. I was thinking about that actually this morning, reading through an article. So let us put our heads together and think through some structure, and we'll be back in touch.
Related to that, it's, some of the states that have capped their taxes, like income tax, which is, the legislature's looking at, even with, and so the property tax, but like in Kansas, where every entity has its own taxing authority. So soil and water is its own authority. Each school district, its own authority. Its arts district, own authority. So there's lots of layered taxes while the claim is property and income tax is very low. And that's another area that I'm not sure if the league is looking at, is some of these alternatives to be able to provide some useful awareness, not only for our member governments, but also just for the legislature, as we and and putting our heads together with the other cogs. Because in the end, money's got to come from somewhere to support municipal services. It's where is it and who's affected.
I do agree that it doesn't seem that by and large our state legislature has a clear understanding of how much of our general fund budgets are tax dollars and how much of that out of the basic services that we provide are eaten up very quickly in our budgets every single year. Of course, I know we're recording this, but we have to pass a budget every year, and we have to stick to that budget, and we have to get audits done in a timely fashion. I think sometimes the state forgets the pressure that local municipalities are under to provide for their citizens on shoestring budgets, quite frankly.
So on that note, Gar, I'm gonna jump in. I'm not getting city talking about how bad it's been in Wake County the last 2 years. I've been this much time. We did our rebalance on January 24. Average home price valuations went up 53%, and that was in a 4-year period. We had already done a 4-year cycle. Keep in mind that it's not grown that much before, that we're seeing explosive growth and pressure on their prices. We're above that. That was that 3%. So we have the highest number of appeals that we've ever had. Our tax administrative office and the appeals that they can't settled and have to get forwarded onto a state group that deals with them. They're still going on for 2 years, and we don't have all of those settled. We're getting the number down, but anyway, it's been really bad. One of the things that is are a programs that allow tax rules and forth, but income of who qualifies. But in Wake County, we just have your board of qualify. And they're the same across the state. And so what an income level of $38,000 means, I don't know, way different from Wake County. So that's one of the, we're trying to give as many people relief as we can, but there just aren't enough that that have been in bought homes 40 and 50 years ago, just now have ridiculous bills. But anyway, there's that. Was the worst pushback that we've had time and time. We did attempt. We always will attempt to initially go revenue neutral after the rebound. If our budget requires more funding, we make some adjustments, but then we don't control what the municipal. But with all that being said, earlier Byron, which Association of County Commissioners, we have been watching very closely the site committee on property. And I'm happy. And their January meeting, which is their meeting, they did allow Kevin Lillard on the commission. I can't remember. President,
yeah,
about what municipalities spend their money on and what percentage average property tax, which for most of us is 70% or more. And so they tried to, they did get very good facts that the legislators that are on that committee. I think it was at the same time. I'm sorry, which is saying it's coming and going. Is it coming and going for others?
No.
Let me. I don't know. Let me turn my off. Let's see if that helps me. Hold on. Anyway, can you hear me now?
Yep.
So I was just going to highlight that, but they did have an opportunity to hear from our two associations. And we were very fast about what is alarming. They perceive fast at their meeting a week ago, or right a week ago, potential things that which would be amendments to get the voters to weigh in and get the legislature limit tax levies in some way. And the interesting thing about that is they don't need a constitutional amendment. They already have the authority to institute any kind of levy like they would like to in a general rule state. So what that means, anything we do as a county and a municipality becomes the legislative but just want to highlight that we think it's a very dangerous draft proposal. And then the last thing Kathleen mentioned with the money that we are losing for housing developments that now qualify for a state exemption because they're having the law percentage at nonprofit. There's a loophole in the law. Are you not able to hear me well? Looks like not.
Susan, you're still coming and going.
Yeah. I think that looks Thanks.
Well, just to reiterate, though, I do think that most of our municipalities, most counties, do believe the proposal that has been put forward is very dangerous. And again, I do hope that they continue on both the House and Senate committee, get full, clear information about our budgetary restraints and how much taxes do contribute to our overall budget and the type of services that we must provide for our citizens.
Yeah. I was Byron, I was going to say for Kathleen, in Johnston County, unlike Hillsborough and Orange County, we can't spell excoriated, so we just get gutted over ours. Our tax rate. We had the 24 reval, and I think the average was 70%, right at 70%, the average tax. But even though we cut the county rate to about 2% above, or 2 cents above revenue neutral, still 90% of the people saw some increase in their tax bill, and really the eastern part of the county was hit the hardest. Some of those had 110% increase in their revaluation. So it's really difficult as a local government to set a tax rate that would make their taxes be the same as it was last year and still have enough money to run the county. I will say we had a gentleman from the National Association of Counties present to our Tax and Finance Subcommittee last Thursday. And I think there was something like 20 something states who have seen 115 different laws tied to property taxes considered. Not all were negative, but they're all considered. And of course, so it's not unique to North Carolina there. And so there was a lot of interesting information, but it is a nationwide trend to try to for the folks in Raleigh or in their capitals to try to do something. One thing that was very disturbing, I don't know how many of you watched that, but and Byron referenced it, just the lack of understanding of what local governments do. There were a few there. I think Maria, and I can't pronounce Maria's last name, from Wake County, did a really good job of trying to explain the impacts and what for public safety and education and what that would mean. And some of them were just clueless as to what they talked about: misspending and overspending and afraid to cut taxes when, from the county perspective, and Susan, you can help me with this, Kurt, I believe that there were 71 counties in the last 3 years that saw a revow, and all 71 counties cut the rate. Now, I don't know the never revenue neutral, but that's the bottom line. It's all 71 cut the rate. So it isn't as bad. It is, unfortunately, it's and Byron, I'm glad you reminded me it was being recorded, so I'll temper this a little bit. But it is a campaign issue to get people out to vote. And unfortunately, we're the ones that are going to have to deal with the aftermath and figure out how and what we may have to cut because of and I will say this: Mecklenburg County, and we're going to do the same thing. I don't know if we're going to publish it or not, but Mecklenburg County takes all the unfunded mandates and things that the state is supposed to be paying for and publishes that. And so we're going to do the thing. We already got district attorneys and other staff that we're having to pay for, in addition not to the schools that we're paying for that we shouldn't be have to pay. So there's a lot of things that, again, they just don't understand what we're doing with the money, and just they totally forget COVID and the increase in the price of everything, labor, materials, all that stuff. They just act like that didn't happen. And it is very frustrating to watch. I only watched an hour of it. Thank goodness I had to go get some work done. But I would encourage you to at least watch those, because it is very disturbing to hear some of the comments that our folks in Raleigh make about the way we govern and the wasteful spending they kept referring to. So I'll step off my soapbox, but it definitely will get your blood pressure. If you need to boost your blood pressure up a little bit, go watch one of their special hearings.
I'm good about that. Thank you. Can I just, I'm like, I don't need any of that in my life. That's just negative energy. Can I just say something really quickly? So with our initial budget retreat, so two separate things, and I think it's helpful, is that city and county budgets very much operate in the way that home budgets operate. They're not, there's not complex policy the way, especially at the federal level, where if there's a treasury and you print money, and it's like it's inputs and outputs. That's it. And I think that the other part for us is the nonpartisan, I guess it's budget and tax office, nonprofit, nonpartisan. They came to our retreat. We do kind of a macroeconomic piece in our retreat as a city of Durham, and that's who got invited this year. And they were so good, and they explained it in such a way of like what is happening at the state level with corporate tax rate and things like that, and what is that actually doing, and who is getting caught with that bill at the end of the day, who's funding what as state residents, that we're going to try and incorporate them. So every fall we do community conversations on our budget. So we run a satisfaction survey for residents every year. It's the same firm. We've done it for 16 years so that we get that kind of long data, right? And then we also run community conversations to talk about resident priorities. So we get some more of that qualitative data. And we're talking about incorporating those folks in those community conversations again, so regular residents really understand where a lot of the pressures are coming from when the state doesn't fund the things that they're supposed to fund and who that falls to. So I was just so impressed with the data and how they spoke to us, and that was like everyone would be able to really understand that. It wasn't in a way, sometimes economic data gets real wonky. It wasn't that way. So for those folks, if you have the means, I know we're all come from different communities and different sized budgets, but I highly recommend their services.
Yeah, this is Rick Hutchinson again. California was brought up, and I've been there and lived that. What was referred to as Prop 13, and that is actually pretty much non-existent in what it deals with now, because when a property is sold, it reassesses, and so what it has created, unfortunately, there is California is the land of benefit assessments and propositions, and unfortunately, a lot of those are Trojan horses disguised as benefit assessments and propositions, because the shell game then takes place back behind closed doors, where they gut something else and tell everyone that things are broken. You got to pay for this now. Really, what Raleigh just made to be responsive to our public is to keep it at the lowest level, at the local levels. Period.
I couldn't agree with that statement more. Absolutely. Let the local folks decide how dollars are managed. Let them decide the level of service that they require in their community, and go from there. It is incredibly hard to imagine the folks in Raleigh putting their hands so tightly on what happens at the local level these days. When we saw the conversations about planning and zoning adjustments from a state legislature standpoint last year, that's the same conversation still. Let your local folks decide how their community grows. Let your local folks decide how their local tax dollars are spent. Anybody else want to comment on our tax conversation throughout this budget cycle for the state? All right, we'll move it on down to the chair's report. We need to look into a nominating committee to work on our movements for our next fiscal year for the Central Pines Regional Council. It's typically the nominating committee is the immediate past chair. Of course, former Chair Gant has left the board. So we do have our former chair, Delegate Butch Lauer with Johnston County here. Is there a possibility that Delegate Lauer, you'd be able to join our nominating committee for the upcoming fiscal year for Central Pines Regional Council.
I'll be glad to do that.
Awesome. And then with that, we'll look at, we've got Lee's evaluation, which of course will happen at the June Executive Committee. And then we'll actually get a questionnaire, I believe, is it from Jenny? Is Jenny?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll work with you, Chair, to get that out. And yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be coming from Jenny for everybody, so that we'll be prepared for our next executive committee meeting and closed session to look at Lee's performance. And then with that, is there anything else that needs to be mentioned in the meantime before we move on to our executive director's report? Anything I've missed? We're good to go? All right. Hey, Lee, what you got for us, bud?
Okay. Thank you. Really interesting discussion on the tax issue, and it is certainly not to the degree that your local governments deal with in terms of unfunded mandates. But I think one thing you'll see in my budget message that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks is I'm really going to be emphasizing the lack of funding from the federal and the state government for our long-term care ombudsman program with our area agency on aging. It's one example of where our counties have really stepped up to support a really critical program. Our long-term care ombudsman, we have 5 of them. They are charged through state statute to visit our over, I think it's 13,000 long-term care beds across our 7-county region. They're allowed to enter any facility at any time, talk to residents, and really are there to advocate for residents of those long-term care facilities. The purpose is obviously to protect long-term care facility residents' rights, and also to try to stop issues before they become issues that need to be dealt with county social services or with the state. So they serve a great purpose. We really should have 7 ombudsmen in our region based on national statistics and standards, but we have had 5 for a long time. And the state and federal funding that comes down from the Older Americans Act really only pays for 3 of those 5 ombudsmen, and the counties for decades have picked up the tab and the difference to fund those other 2 positions. And we're still behind in terms of the standard. So it's not just the local governments. We also see some unfunded mandates as well, but certainly not to the degree as our counties and municipalities do. We had a great turnout for our new delegate orientation. We held 3 separate orientation sessions for our new delegates. We had more than 15 new delegates, and we probably had 70% of the delegates come to one of the 3 sessions. And I am more than willing to hold a session for anybody that wasn't able to make it. I just did a session individually with our new delegate from Aberdeen, had a really good conversation, so really enjoyed those discussions. I do want to highlight, I know we emailed this out, but just kudos to our staff on securing a $10 million award from the state on weatherization needs that'll help over 900 homes over the next 3 years. We'll begin programming that into the budget for next fiscal year. Speaking of the budget, April full board meeting will be when I present the budget, and we will have our public hearing. I anticipate getting the budget out to the local governments around the 15th of April. No dues increases are expected for the budget for next year. And we'll certainly share more as we get to April. We had a really great meeting today with our regional city and county managers, and many of our solid waste directors attended that meeting as well. I know solid waste is a big concern for both municipalities and counties in the region. I know there's some jurisdictions that are beginning to think about needing to make very, very significant decisions around that. We've had a solid waste consortium for almost 5 years now, and it was a really great discussion. I really want to thank the city of Durham, Durham County, city of Raleigh. I think those were the presentations. Oh, and Wake County for doing really great presentations on some of the issues that they're facing. And the managers gave us a thumbs up to begin thinking about where there may be really solid regional opportunities for us to collaborate and maybe think about some regional opportunities around solid waste. So that was so more to come on that, but that was a really good discussion. Another really important item I just wanted to talk to the committee about really quickly is I'll be down in the town of Micro tomorrow presenting. I'm actually doing 2 budgets this year. I'm doing the budget for Central Pines, and I've helped Micro develop their budget for the last several years. They have caught up with all of their audits. They are current on audits. You all may remember when we started assisting them a couple years ago, they were 3 years behind on their audits. The local government commission was considering taking the town over. They now have they're up to date on their audits. As we're developing their budget, they actually have a nice bit of funding that they could potentially set aside to build fund balance. And it's really a great story of a set of elected officials with the proper assistance that have really dug in and done a really nice job to turn things around. So that is a great example of what regional councils can do in supporting local governments. And just really proud of the progress the town has made over the years. I think that is all on my list. It is. So appreciate everybody being here, and thank you for the support on the strategic plan. We'll look forward to presenting that as well in April. So 2 major topics for April, our strategic plan and our budget presentation. Mr. Chair, thank you again.
Very cool, very cool. Other business real quick, again, going back to the nominating committee, I will be getting in touch with Delegate Lauder to discuss building a nominating committee and get some information, reach out to some folks before we just slap you on the committee. And then hopefully over the next week and a half or so, get the committee together. And I think then I'll ask Ms. Beth Seidel to reach out to everybody and convene a meeting of that nominating committee. So that'll be coming in the next week and a half or so. Is there any other business that needs to be attended to before we adjourn? All right. Hearing none, let's go ahead and adjourn this thing. Not bad. Hour and 15 minutes. Good stuff, guys. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Yes, yes. Thank everybody for being here this evening. Staff, thanks for the amazing hard work that you're doing. Lee, your staff's incredible. They didn't miss a beat in your absence. So all of you. Right. Yeah, man. Hey, everybody have a wonderful evening. Take care. Be safe.